ni enchamuki nila kayo kashtu.
So let's go over some other principles in general that take a lifetime to apply, but that it's good to know. This is kind of a two-sided coin. I mean, in a sense, we want to understand that we're all subjects. That's what this means. Subjective, not objective. We are in a civilization that has treated us, has created us as objects. We're treated as cattle. We treat ourselves as cattle. Governments treat us as cattle, as objects, as soulless entities, as material beings with no souls, with no free will. And that's what needs to change. That's how we need to understand that everything is a subject, not an object. Ourselves, and then of course, that's maybe the definition of animism, is everything is as well alive and has a soul and a consciousness. So in the practice, we treat our house as a living entity, and this is very much done in native people of today, native traditions or native practices or native worldviews. Of course, we must understand that different native people in different nations are in different situations. Some might be really closer to a more authentic practice of their worldviews, and at the same time have some contamination from the overworld worldview. Some might be far from that and be very, very much just kind of transformed already from their actual native worldview, but yet they keep some traditions or some practices that resemble that. So we need to see the whole variety of, and every single person is unique, and every single person has a different situation in this. There is no like ideal ones. Everybody is dealing with how do we survive, and how do we overcome this world of inorganic beings that have taken over us and are destroying our very lives and are making and have brought about hell on earth. So one of the things you would try to do is go back to this perception that everything is alive, that everything is an entity, that you can speak to the plants, that you can speak to objects, that even things we tend to, it's like, it happens to me, for example, here with my family, where I'll get mad when somebody does something, like grabs one of my things and uses it in a way that I don't like to use it. And they'll get mad at me. They're like, why do you get mad at me? It's just a thing. And I'm like, no, not to me. To me, we have a relationship, and we like the way we have the relationship. And she likes to be treated this way. She likes to be grabbed this way. I don't like to grab this tool this way, because then it might get scratched or whatever. But they really react adversely to the way I actually treat things. It's kind of maybe a jealousy that, hey, why are you putting me on the second? It's not that I put him on the second plane, but why are you giving importance to this object? Why are you calling on my attention, so that for just an object that we can just buy, right? And so that's an example of how everything can be seen in another light of care. taking care of everything. And of course, nobody's perfect, and I'm going to be not caring good enough things and people. So the other side of the coin of these words, that this is not the point of these words, so that you don't get lost in the language, because then we have the situation in this world, where this modern world, where we're all the time overly subjective, in the sense that we're not driving an idea ourselves. We're not leading, and we're just following. We're just subjects to somebody else's will, to an external situation, to an external savior. Oh, a new president is going to change something. This candidate is the better version. An expert is going to solve this issue in my life. An expert is going to heal me. You can only heal yourself. You can only solve the problems yourself. Of course, it's a very different workload. Of course, it's more easy to just allow an external situation to take care of you. And that's how this can go the other way around. We need to be a lot more objective and less subjective. We really need to find our intellect and say, okay, I need to take care of this. I need to take care of myself. I need to be objective about this economic situation that is getting every day worse, and that we need to find other sources of food, another source of water, another source of home, another source. Get away from the civilization's money system and income system, and find other ways to trade and to be self-sufficient. All that is created by being objective. If we just think that, and that's very new agey too, thinking that the new dimension, we're going to go into a new dimension where matter is no longer relevant. That's just, I'm sorry, a little bit of new age BS. It's a total misunderstanding and misinterpretation of the dimensions. We're not going to go into the fifth dimension, where it's just an interpretation. But the world is still going to be here, and no external situation is going to make things better. Because let me tell you, as we saw on the charts, on the graphs, or on the drawings, we're pretty much our own universe, and whatever you create for yourself or perceive is what is going to exist for yourself. That, with the consideration of how the world is, and that you need to take into account, and you need to carry the weight and do the work for everybody else, because we are in our own universe, but the universe is not solipsist. We need to understand that, yes, our perception shapes everything, but that has to include everybody, and that we need to, and you're like, I can't change everybody. No, but you need to understand that you will be affected by everybody, and the more you can, at least a little bit, at least inspire somebody else to be different and to follow your objective plan of betterment, then the better everybody's going to be. And we all need to walk together, and we cannot just isolate ourselves. We need to change everything, and we need to imagine and see how that's possible, because we have been giving a programming that has taken that imagination away from us. We can't even imagine. I mean, human beings, let me tell you like an idea. We have the power and the technologies, if you want, to organize and completely shift the course of humanity in a few months. That's possible, but first we need to understand and know it's possible. So that's subjective, not objective. This is another thing, cyclical, not lineal. We've been talking about this, we'll be talking about this. This course is very good for this, teaches us cycles. We'll be learning cycles and learn that everything is like a spiral, because it's not a closed circle that circles, like it returns to the exact same spot. Like returns to the same spot, but if we change the dimension of the point of view, it's going on a spiral. And the actual celestial movements work like that. Everything's kind of spirally. So we do end up being in the same position all the time, but there's a little of advancement in another axis. And this applies to so many areas of life where we're stuck in the lineal, and it's also like a very narrow-minded perception. And anytime we're trying to qualify something as being better or worse, that's maybe something that is happening. We're just seeing that it's not better or worse, it's the same. Sometimes as well, we think we're doing an advancement, like in a linear way, we're growing, like in a straight line. And like I would think, I like to use myself as an example. I'm so much better than I was 10, 20 years ago. And then I actually stalk myself and see that I'm doing the exact same stupid thing that I was doing 10 or 20 years ago. I'm back to where I was. I'm back to ground zero. And that you're going to see that happens all the time. We're going over the same mistakes all the time, the same situations. So the maturing, the growing is a lot slower than we would like it to be. It really takes lots of turns in life, and it takes even more than one life to really grow as much as we would like to grow. So some things that I can say about cyclical and not linear as a principle. Communitarian, not individual. One of the big problems we have today with the modern world, isolationism, individualism. It's a two-sided coin thing too, because we do need to primordially see for ourselves. That's just a natural thing. We really need to think of ourselves truly, like really see for ourselves. But in that, we understand that everybody else is included in ourselves, that somebody else's pain is our own pain. If you want to heal that pain, you have to heal that other person's pain too. We have to accompany us. We have to start individually and reconnect with our individuality and our own power and our intellect, but that includes everybody else. And then there's a limit to how healed we can be just by ourselves. We really need to think about creating and recreating human communities because we've been severely fragmented. And here we are gathered from different places in the world. And I know there's things about our souls that are just totally touching. You know how we are always having that connection, that a profound love connection. That's one of the things that I'll share the little minutes I have left. We were told in the decolonization workshop I attended for more than a year, how do you tell from a native, an indigenous, let's say an Aymara, because this was in Bolivia, How do you tell, because you can have an Aymara that looks like an Aymara, he speaks Aymara, comes from an Aymara family, but his attitude is really not that Aymara. How do you tell from that Aymara man from an Aymara man that is truly Aymara, that is truly native, that is truly in the native way and not in the modern one? Well, the one that is kind of contaminated by the modern energy is always going to seek to fragment and to point out the differences, and it's going to tell you, and it's very common to see it with natives. Oh, you are the different ones. You are the white ones. Oh, you're just the white man. What do you know? You're a gringo. What do you know? You don't know better. We're the ones that know. We're the ones that have to deal with all the crap that you have brought about upon us. And that's how a modern Aymara would. An ancient Aymara, one that is aligned with the actual mindset, would focus on the things that we have in common. Oh, you're here because you're here to learn about our ways. That is so good. I really hope that you can join us. I really hope that we can create something together. In the Amazon, one of the things that happens, this is really interesting. If you go to a tribe that is in the phases, what they call the initial phases of initial contact, there are tribes that they didn't go through Christianization and through the colonies, they kept isolated, and they have more recently become into contact with the modern world. So they are now in contact, but it's very recent. If you're going to go to those communities, I was once going to go to one of them, they're going to warn you, be careful. If you go there, you're going to have to marry a woman. I'm like, how does that work? And yes, the soul, naturally, the human soul, when it's free from all this crap that we put around our sphere, like I explained, when it's free from that, it creates bonds instantly. As soon as somebody comes into the community, they fall in love with them. And that's the natural way. That's how it should be. We've grown as a civilization, modern, fragmented, individualistic civilization, to not do that and to always be wary and always have protections and always be, treat ourselves as enemies, as potential enemies, instead of loving each other right away. Of course, if we're living in this modern world, we need to somehow keep that Toltecs, the modern Toltecs, they had that way of knowing what to do when, because if I go out here in the street and I just am that open to somebody, I'm just going to get thrown out. Nothing's going to happen because they're not in that plan. They're not in that openness. So of course it's complex to be like this, but we really need to think about this and to seek to be like that. If we want to heal, if we want to grow, we really need to open to the possibilities of creating bonds, of creating communities, of thinking about, I don't know how you guys are living. I am, for example, I'm in a group of 5, and I wish my group was of 500, just to give an idea. So I still want to love a lot more people. I need to love more people. And I'm in that openness, but then the situation is that it's not that easy. It takes a little bit of time. It takes years. It takes many cycles to get there. So, and then of course, even the 5 that are with me, they're not all completely with me. Some of them are a little bit still grabbed onto the modern system. So it's complex. I know it's complex and it's a big work to do, but that's what we really need to open to. That's what and it's actually the most uncomfortable thing sometimes for many people. We've grown so uncomfortable with that. We just want to have our many layers on, I don't need to touch you. I don't need to be with you. I don't need to hear your problems. I don't need to share my problems. I don't want to open up. That's one of the things that needs to change. That would be the individualistic energy mindset that comes from the modern world, and we need to find ways to shift to an open mindset that allows for creating bonds and connections. That would be this principle. Uh-oh, I didn't want to do that. Okay. And we're almost done with this section. Dual, not singular, means that everything has a polarity. There's a lot of this in Hermetic teachings too. Everything is masculine and feminine. Everything has a companion. There's two sides to everything, two poles, to what is I forgot the word, genre, yeah, to everything. And as we saw, even us as human beings are not a single soul. We are two souls. We are two assemblage points that create a third. That's the Nawal is the third assemblage point, because once you get two, you can have a third and even a fourth. They talk about like the greatest Nawals. They can have even 4 assemblage points. It's really 2 that create like an extra sphere of consciousness that kind of creates like a third assemblage point, and that can then have its own duality, and then it's 4 assemblage points. But then that's one of the things, and that's something that we're going to be seeing in the next session, that with the gods, we're going to go through the pantheon, and we're going to see that every single god has a male and a female, or most of them. There's male, female, male, and female. And the universe is like that. Everything is like that. Everything is in couples. Everything is dual, not singular. Everything's a symbol. Everything is a language. And from language comes creation. And the Maya greatest principle, respect of all life in all of its forms and manifestations, was taught to me by a Mayan elder. There's many ways to interpret this, because we need to include death as a form of life. That's a complicated part of it, because then we might get into these discussions of the Buddhists and the people that don't want to kill an ant. And we might get into that, I don't know, on this course, but it's something that is important to get into, because death is part of life, and we all create death, and death created us. And that's going to take us into the next session of creation of the world in Maya pantheon, the gods of the Maya pantheon, and some more stuff about the histories. Now, for a creation, you have to read the Popol Vuh. That's homework, not for this module, but just take as long as you want. If you take longer, I am of the teaching that the longer you take on reading something, the better, because you get a lot of teachers that like to show off on how fast they read books and fast reading, etc. I take a year to read a book. I take a year. I take a whole day to go through a paragraph and then just really allow that to sink in and to see all the layers, because if you read the Popol Vuh, you're going to find that it has different layers. There's like overlapping stories in the same story. So you can read it again and you can understand a whole new thing. It's really, really amazing. So get the Popol Vuh. It's available everywhere. There's very cheap versions of it. I'm not even going, or if you want, I'll upload it. But it's better if you can actually get the book. and read it on paper. It's nicer, I believe. Otherwise, anybody has questions for this module? We are done with today's session.
Enchamukin ila kayo, kasto